Welcome to our team call tonight. I'm really excited to introduce to you a guest speaker. Trying to think if there's any announcements we want to make. Transform 20 task group launch group starts on Monday, so make sure if you guys are still pushed to get anybody in if you possibly want. I know for me personally, I've told everybody tomorrow's the last call, because people are probably still going to, if they order by tomorrow, they may not get it by Saturday or Monday. So just let people know that if you do have them, sign up this week, that there could be a delay in them starting. They could still get started just without their steps, so forth. Super Sunday, Super Weekend is this weekend. So make sure you get to a location. Most of us in the New Jersey area are all going to the Philly Super Sunday. I know Larissa is going to be there. And I think that's it for now. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce you guys to Larissa. She lives in Delaware, but she's originally from Arizona. She's been coaching for a little over 4 years. Her husband is in the military. She has 2 girls that are 5 and 2. She's a 1-star diamond coach, and she's going to be sharing with us tonight how to kind of use your life, the things that you encounter to your advantage versus using it as an obstacle. So I'm really excited to hear what she has to add for us tonight, and take it away.
Yay, thank you. All right, so I'm super excited. First, I just want to say thank you to Leah and all of you guys for having me on your team call tonight. I am probably be darting a little bit to my notes because I'm super scatterbrained, so I jump all over the place. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this because this is something that is so huge in my life and my business, and that I'm so passionate about. So I figured I'd start a little bit just kind of introducing you, myself to you, and just a little bit about how I got started with coaching, because that has a lot to do with where I am now. So I got started almost 4 years ago. Technically, I signed up 4 years ago in February, strictly for the discount. I am one of those people who wanted absolutely nothing to do with Beachbody. I wanted absolutely nothing to do with coaching or network marketing or anything like that. And I just got started because my husband was deployed. He left and my daughter just turned 1. It was actually, oh my gosh, this is crazy, because it was 4 years ago today that he left on his deployment. It came up on my time hop, so super full circle moment. So he was deployed. I had a 1-year-old daughter. I was working full time. I worked as a server and a bartender. I was also a hairstylist, but I left that job to work serving and bartending full time because the schedule worked better with my husband. So I was running around crazy, never taking care of a kid by myself, never lived by myself, so focused on her, and I'd never even fed a kid by myself because she just started eating food, that I wasn't taking care of myself. So I only got drawn to Beachbody because of Shakeology, because I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Signed up strictly for the discount because there was the military discount. My coach added me to all these pages. She blasted me, announced me on Facebook, and I untagged myself like I was that person. And I almost took myself out of the coach pages, but I'm really glad that I didn't, because it was actually just from seeing everything in the coach pages and all the inspiration in the community and things like that, and seeing what was really possible, that made me just kind of want to dabble a little bit. So I was a dabbler for a while, and then I really wanted to get more into coaching when I was pregnant with my second daughter after my husband had come back. But that's just kind of a little bit about my story. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is all the things that, through a little bit of my personal story, but also in a way that I hope some of you guys can connect with, is when life happens or obstacles happen in our life that make us feel like they're getting in the way of our business, right? Or these things that happen that make us feel like we can't do the things that we need to do to succeed, or that make it so much harder, or that hold us back from hitting our goals, or things like that. For example, my husband being deployed, right? That could have been something super hindering. I didn't even tell him when I signed up as a coach, by the way, because he was deployed. I was just like, hey, I'm just buying this thing. And him being gone and, having a toddler and all those kinds of things is something that could have easily just kind of held me back. But that's kind of just what I wanted to talk about is, one thing I really want to say is, sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained, like I said. With all those things, I'm here to tell you that in my business in the last, I want to say like 3 years, because I've really only been kind of like actually coaching for almost 3 years, or about 3 years, is the most profitable times in my business, and the most times that I've hit goals, hit achievements, I've seen the most growth has been when they're the hardest times of my life, or when there's more things happening in my life that technically like stress me out, or feeling like they're piled on, or just going through things. And that's not because I'm special. That's not because I am like lucky or anything like that. But I think, and I truly do believe this, that because in those moments, that's when we need to lean in most. That's when we need to feel like we need to sink our heels in and really kind of almost, and I hate to say this, but kind of almost really work our business like we should be working our business all the time. You know what I mean? And that's something I've realized in my journey, is that when I'm put up against a wall, and I'm put up against a wall of something that I feel like should hold me back, that's when I sink my heels in, and I really say, okay, well, like, this is a challenge that's coming at me. If I'm going to try and succeed and like survive and do all of these things, I really need to put pedal to the metal and do this. And then because of that, because of going through those challenges, and I'm going to share with you guys some of the things that have happened in my life through my own experiences. And then I'm going to share with you guys some tips too that I think might help at the end. Through doing that and seeing how when I'm pushed up against a wall and I'm like really, working it that way, that shows me the way I need to treat my business all the time, right? And that's what has helped me keep going with growth. That's what really has helped me keep succeeding, is because I see when I put this amount of work in, when I do these things, this is the result. And so some of the things I wanted to just share with you guys a little bit of the things that have come up in my life that honestly have been the biggest skyrockets in my business, but also the hardest times in my life, is one, my husband being deployed. He was gone for 7 months, and then he came back for a month, and then he was gone for another 2. So on the, I think, 8th month of when he was gone is actually when I hit diamond. So I signed up as a coach and hit diamond before he even came home. And that was when I was still having to work full time. And again, I think it was just because I saw it. I like to see things as a challenge. And that's a tip I kind of like to share it too, is looking at it as like kind of a personal challenge and challenging yourself that way. Kind of like we do with our challengers, right? With the fitness programs, like you tackle one thing at a time. Another one was moving across the country from Arizona to Delaware. We actually only got the news 70 days notice. We had 2 kids at the time. My youngest was, I think, like 5 months, 6 months, something like that. We had 70 days to like pack up our house, find a house. We bought a house. We bought this house without ever seeing it in Delaware. And actually that timing too, the way it worked out, we actually went to the Success Club trip in Punta Cana, got back from the Success Club trip, and moved to Delaware 5 days later. So we only had a 5-day grace period between that. And in that week is when I signed the most coaches. I think I did that entire year, was the week that we were moving. Same thing when my husband got home from his deployment. We traveled for about a month, and that was, I think, I was pretty new coach back then. Do you share all this with people through your stories and posts? I do. In little kind of breadcrumbs. I share these different kinds of pieces. I think it helps to have them written down. And sorry if I don't see all the things in the chat. I'm on my phone, so it doesn't pop up all the time. I have like a notebook of all like the experiences I've gone through and things like that, and then kind of breadcrumb them in. Another one, and this is the biggest one, is a little over a year ago, my husband, he's in the military. He was injured in the military, and he had to have double hip surgery in December of last year. And he could not walk for 9 months. He lived upstairs here in his recliner. Again, we have 2 kids. Now we live somewhere where there's no family. This was by far the hardest year of my life. And again, I'm going to give you guys tips. I'm not just sharing my stories, but I'm just sharing it to let you know a little bit about how when you really sink in these hard times, and one, that you're not alone. But he couldn't walk for 9 months. He couldn't go to work for 9 months. Sorry, my thing is talking to me. And actually had to have another hip surgery in May. Stop talking to me. Sorry. He had to have another hip surgery in May. And again, he couldn't walk for another 5 months after that. And throughout this journey, throughout this year of, my husband being injured and trying to build my business, and my kids, and like kids are growing, and there's always new stresses that come with kids growing, right? I started dealing with a lot of anxiety that I'd never had before in my life. Like, I was never somebody that had anxiety or thought I had anxiety. And through this, figuring this out and learning it, I felt for a while like I had to put on a brave face, right? Like I have to be this face on Instagram and Facebook. Like I have to put up a front or something. And while I'm, you know, having panic attacks and anxiety attacks in my closet, and I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on with me, and I don't know what's going on. And this is probably in like June of 2018 that it really like hit me. And then finally, again, I think that was part of what was adding to my breakdown. So that is something I have to say too, is like, if you are going through a really hard time, whatever it is, like whether it's a life change, a personal struggle, like a work struggle, whatever it is, if you're going through a really hard time and you're trying to put up a front almost and like fake it till you make it kind of thing, that might add to your pressure and your stress that you're feeling. So a tip that I have, I'm kind of jumping around, I know. A tip that I have is just really, when you're experiencing something, and I know you hear this all the time, but it doesn't hurt to hear the things that work, right? Is using your story in a way to help people with it, no matter what you're experiencing. It's not complaining about it. It's not lying. It's not being fake. It's not even like using it to make yourself more successful. Because what I found was that when I was doing that, I wasn't connecting. Like when I was faking it, or when I was like not being my authentic self and sharing the things I was going through, I wasn't connecting with people who were going through the similar things as me, right? Because like nobody knows I'm going through those things. Nobody knows I'm dealing with those things. So the people that I'm creating more work for myself because I'm not finding people and I'm not connecting with people on my level. I'm not like helping people like me because I'm not connecting with people like me, because I'm not sharing the things that I'm going through. So something I did was one night I was having I was just having like a hard time breathing. I couldn't stop like spontaneously crying. Like I could have, like you would have thought that I was pregnant. I was just like, oh, it was horrible. I was like, what is wrong with me? And I was like crying. And my mom was here. She was visiting, helping with the kids. And like the kids were in bed. My husband was up here because he still couldn't walk. And my mom went to go take a shower. And I was like, screw this. Like I'm done. I'm done. And I went downstairs in my living room. I sat down on my floor. I turned on a Facebook freaking live video and I just started sharing my story. And in my story about how I never felt that I had anxiety, or that I never pegged myself for somebody as it. And I was like going to the hospital because I was having chest pain, thinking I was having like a heart attack and all this kind of stuff. And I turned my mess into a message. And, you know, I'm the biggest fan of, you know, spin it to win it in a way, like share your journey, be authentic, and then turn it into making it be about the person listening or reading, right? Like the things that we do, it's super important that it is for us a little bit, but the things we post and the things we share are really for them. It's really for them. And by doing that, I will tell you guys, I cried on the video. It was a hot mess, but to this day I have people like tagging people in it and like commenting on it. And really sharing that and connecting with people, it really, it made me feel a lot better too. Like for the first time in like weeks after I hit finish and like post live or whatever, I felt the first like breath of fresh air. And I still, like I said, I still sometimes have people message me about it or people I talk to. But I felt the first real breath of fresh air that I had in like a long time. And that's when I really realized, like, it's so much more powerful when you use those things to help other people, not only for them, but for you too, for us too. So hold on, I just kind of jumped around right there, but it was basically the same thing that I just said, is that we do this to help people, but also to help ourselves. So lean into what feels good. Take those chances and figure out what feels good. You know what I mean? Because that's exactly, we have this amazing platform to share our journey to help people. It's not just about us. It's not just about sharing about us, but about connecting with people. Another thing that I put on here that I meant to say is a huge reason that it's so important to lean in when things get tough. Now, this could be anything. Like I said, it could be something I struggle with a lot is when somebody gets pregnant, right? Like a lot of people think it's really hard to push through with this business when we get pregnant or things like that, because it can be hard. Like, and trust me, when I was pregnant with my second, I didn't coach with my first because I wasn't a coach yet, but I was a coach throughout my whole pregnancy with my second. And I will say also that was when like the biggest boom in my business was one of them. But it was hard. Like that first trimester stuff, like that is no joke. Like, whew, and I was like serving and walking. I was working still 40 hours a week. Like it was insane. But feeling like, you know, it's so hard because we're dealing with all these struggles and things like that. But here's something is if you're in this to build the business, right? Like if you're serious about this and you like have long-term goals and big goals and stuff like that, is a huge thing is getting people to like you, know you, and trust you, right? Like I'm sure you've heard it before. They need to like you, they need to get to know you, and they need to trust you. A huge reason people are so hesitant with getting involved with something like Beachbody or like an MLM because they bunch them all together, right? Like so frustrating. I mean, I get it because I guess I was one of those people, but so there's so. But it's because they don't necessarily trust you, right? Like they see people starting something and then stopping something and then trying this and then like trying that, and people who are like really the people you want, the people who are going to stick with it, they're not going to want to join somebody who is hopping, skipping and jumping around, right? Or who they don't feel like is super like really committed. And I don't mean like you need to like plaster Beachbody all over your life, or you need to like, you know, sell your firstborn or anything like that. But like they want to know that like you're in it, like you're gonna be here for them when they join, whether it's a challenger or somebody on your team or something like that. So the biggest thing is when you're going through something and like, or like life hits you hard, or, you know, stuff happens, and if you fall off the face of the earth for 3 months, or you lose your passion that you just talked about for 3 months that you had for it, they're going to lose that trust. They're going to lose that trust that they had for you, or that they were building, right? Like that trust will be broken before they even fully built it. So know that with everything you do, even if you're not seeing instant success, even if you're not seeing the results that you want right now, you are building trust. You are building relationship. You are building the platform that your business, their business, everything will sit on. So that was something I think is huge, because I really do believe, like, I think that's a huge reason why I still have people that I've been talking to for 2 or 3 years, or who knew me when I started as a coach, talk to me and join me, is because I think they see me going through the things I go through and leaning into coaching as a way to help, and how it's helped me, and sharing that versus completely disappearing. Now, it's not to say that like there can't be times where you need to like, you know, be alone, figure stuff out. But you know that saying, I'm going to totally botch it, so I'm not even going to try to say that it's right. But the whole thing about like, oh my God, it's going to be bad. Something about falling down and then like raise the whole fire with you, something like that. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? It's okay to burn out, but raise, I don't know. We can look it up. It's a thing. But it's basically saying like, it's okay to get knocked down, but like, just make sure when you come back up, you bring the whole fire. That was much more smooth. So that is something that I think is super, super important, why it's so important to use the things that you have in your life to connect with people and show them. Because, this was my thing, is when you have a baby, right? So if you're a new mom and you're struggling because, you know, your baby doesn't sleep and breastfeeding, my second daughter never took a bottle, like not once. It was torture. Like I love her and I love breastfeeding. We breastfed for 21 months, but that kid never took a bottle. It was, oh my gosh. Anyway, so you're dealing with those struggles, right? Like you're dealing with those things, and it's really hard. And if we let those things hinder our business, right? Like if they hinder our mission, if they hinder your goals and what you want long-term for your family, think about it this way. You're trying to connect with other moms who are in the same season of life, right? What's going to inspire them to join you is being able to see how it can be made to work, right? Like they want to be able to see how it can work, because if you're letting it stop, and I promise you guys, like the people who make it work aren't anything like super special. You can do it. Like everybody can do it. It's just about definitely leaning into your personal development. That was one of my tips that I'm just throwing in here right now. Leaning into your personal development. But you can do it too. So please, like if you're hearing something, you're like, well, I can't do that, and you're thinking I'm like calling you out, I'm not, because I promise that you can do it. Like I was a forever quitter. I was the biggest excuse maker in the entire world. I never stuck with anything ever. And like, I can't even believe I'm here like 4 years later, but it's because I love it so much. I complained about everything. I was the most negative person in the entire world. And I promise you, if I can like coach and become pregnant and like do these things, then I promise anybody can. I promise. So that's the thing, is you want to be able to show people in that season of life how you make it work. I think it takes some pressure off of us, to be completely honest, like off of you, because instead of you then just having to focus on you, you can also focus just on other people, you know, like that's how I work anyway. Like if I just put the pressure on myself, I crumble. If I put the pressure on the people I'm trying, not the pressure, but if I put the thought on the people I'm trying to inspire or the people that I'm trying to show, like, you can make this work, then that just makes it more fun. I think it makes it more like a little challenge. Like, I want to see if I can do this. I want to see if I can show people how you can make this work. And that just makes it more fun. Just bring more joy to it instead of like feeling like you're drowning under like so much stuff happening. There was a quote, I can't remember who said it at Summit, but there was somebody at Summit who said it. And it was about, you can take all the things life is throwing at you and the rocks or the boulders. You can take all the boulders that life is throwing at you and they can bury you, or you can take those boulders and make a path to where you want to go. And so it's all about mindset. It really, really is. It's all about mindset. I really hope this is helping you guys. Okay, let me see if I forgot something on here, because I do have some tips. Helps you build trust. Okay. Oh. Sorry, my phone gave me my 20% warning. Okay. Okay, so some tips that I have when it comes to these things is like, sticking to it and using your life's obstacles or when things happen to really push you forward in your business is, one, stick with your tracker. Whatever you use for tracking. I'm not going to tell you that you need to use something specific, because I'm sure that Leah has told you a bunch of things, or I'm sure that, we have so many resources, so many different things work for different people. But whatever tracker works for you, stick with that. Work from a list, okay? That is huge, because when life is crazy, when life is busy, and you have like 1,000,2,500 things going on, how often do we sit at our computer like, okay, I have 10 minutes to work, and we sit there for 7.5 minutes like, what the heck am I supposed to do, right? Like, those power pockets, those windows of time are crucial when your life is crazy or when things are happening. I think Leah, we talked about one that you guys use. So Leah's is awesome. I'm loving that Success Club tracker, business tracker thing that Carl talked about in the National Wake Up Call. I am loving that. My coaches are loving that. But here's the thing is why it's so important to stick with your tracker, is because when life is crazy, those are the things where if, you can't get anything else done for your business except those things, you can feel good about that. You can know that you did what you need to do that day to, show up for yourself, show up for your people, show up for your business to grow. So it gives you that list. So focus in on those things where, we can always do more. We can always do more. And that's what I have to tell myself all the time. It's like, I always want to do more, but I'm like, as long as I get these things done today on this crazy busy day, I can feel good about like at least showing up and doing my thing. Second is keep up with your personal development, 150%. Do not skip out on that. If you're keeping up with your tracker, though, you won't have a problem because it should be on your tracker. So, third, this is something that was like transformative in my business. Like, anybody raise your hand if your spouse or your husband like is skeptical or like at some point like wasn't really crazy about the business, didn't know what you want to do, like doesn't know how it works, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. My husband, that's it. Well, I can't really blame him because he wasn't here when I signed up. So he literally came home to like a wife doing literally opposite of everything she ever did before. So poor guy. But anyway, so mine is communicate your goals to the people in your life, whether it be your spouse, your parents, your best friends, like all that stuff. Communicate that stuff. Because when life is crazy or you're stressed out, that was a huge mistake I made. Is like I was stressed out, but I wasn't talking to him about it. Not about what I was stressed out, but like what goal I was going for, like what I needed to do. Melanie Mitchell actually has a really good podcast episode on her podcast about talking to your spouse and stuff like that. So that was something that I made my husband listen to that with me. Like you're driving to Philly for his surgery, and we listened to that podcast. And it was super, super helpful because it had her husband's perspective. And like we were listening to it and I was like, oh my God, like that's you. And I was like, oh, that's me. Oh, okay. Like this is helpful. So communicate your goals to the people in your life. It's so much harder to, do those things when you're the only one thinking about it. You're the only one in that alone, right? Like you can't accomplish your team goals without talking to your team, right? This is a part of your life. So the people in your life need to know what's going on. They need to know why it's important to you. They need to know why you're passionate about it, why it's such a big deal, why you need to do these things, okay? That was a game changer in my business. And I wish that I figured that out sooner. The third one was use your story and experience to help people and to help others do the same thing, which I went on a tangent about that already. Another tip that I have too is when something comes in your life or in your way or whatever it is, you know, all the like the top coaches we listen to or we see talking, and the National Wake Up Call or Beachbody Champions or like Summit or like all these things, like all these people, you hear these amazing success stories, right? And you're just like the people that we get training from, right? Picture your situation in that coach's hands. And I'm not about the comparison game, first of all. So that's not what I'm saying. Don't compare ever, ever, ever. But like, if you look at it as an outside perspective, if you would picture one of these successful people that you look up to with the same situation, how would they handle it? Not saying compare, but for example, I had one of my coaches say that the other day. She has a newborn baby, and she was talking about it. And then she was saying, like, I just start to think about, you know, how Amy Silverman is going to handle this with a baby. Like, she's going to do it. She's not going to sit here and say that I can't do it because my baby was up all night or something like that. You know what I mean? So sometimes taking just that outside perspective, or even if that even gives you a little bit of comparison, though, don't do it. Like, don't take that tip if that'll get you stuck in the comparison game. But what you could do is picture that obstacle, one of your coaches saying that, somebody on your team. What kind of advice would you give them? What kind of, like, how would you plan that out? Sometimes we take it too personal when it's our own situation, but if we take an outside perspective of it and see that, it helps us kind of figure it out and game plan a little bit, you know, without getting so caught up in our own heads about it being our own situation. I think, okay. Oh, this was the last thing, is that the way that you deal with the things happening, whatever they are, is not necessarily just about right now, okay? It's not just about what you're doing right now for right now. The way that you handle the things now will help determine how you handle things in the future. So like if we let one thing stop us right now, like something that happens in life, right? Like for example, with my husband, his surgery. Like it was just so hard. Anyway, but if I fell off the face of the earth with coaching, or I quit coaching, or I lost sight of my mission, or I deserted my team, or I gave up on my health and fitness and stopped doing the programs and all this kind of stuff. Like if I let the surgery do that, then got back on the wagon, you know, picked everything back up. The next time something happens in my life, like say when he had to get the second surgery, what am I going to do? What I did the first time. I'm going to disappear again. I'm going to, because I did it the first time. But because I pushed through on the first one, when he had the second one, I was like, all right, did it. I can do it again. It's fine. Just like with the pregnancy, the first pregnancy that I was pregnant, because I pushed through it and like saw what it did for my business. And because I know I can do it, if I get pregnant again, I'm really hoping I don't, but I'm just saying, if I do, then I know I can do it. I know what's possible. But if I, you know, kind of just like didn't do anything my entire pregnancy, if I get pregnant again, I'm not going to do that much again, you know? So you're setting the habits, not just for right now, but for the future. I tell the same thing crosses over into health and fitness and to challengers. It really does. Like whatever you do right now helps determine what you'll do when things get hard in the future. So set yourself up for success. Know that these things, they are here to propel you. Like without a story and without challenges, like your story, or not your story, but your success in your business isn't that dimensional. You need these things. You need these things to happen because the most growth comes from the challenges. Like we know that. So lean into them, really lean into them, and know that they're here, like they're happening to you for a reason. They're not here to shut you down. Use those boulders to pave your way through, and the whole thing with bringing the fire back up. I think that's all I have to say. I hope that was helpful.
Awesome. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to add, or maybe even any tips that you have experienced when you've gone through any hard times?
I'll just say I've seen it go both ways, where someone has a difficult situation and mute that please. Sorry. And they disappear, right? And then they come back in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, but they have lost all that momentum. And it's like they're starting from ground zero again. And yes, you can absolutely build it back up. That's kind of the beauty of this business. But like you have to put in all that extra effort again. And to where like I'm pregnant right now, some days like I can't do crap. And today was like one of those days, but I just did my best. I did one thing. That's what I tell myself. If I can just do one thing every single day and be consistent with it, like I'll be okay. But I don't want to just, not show up and like fall off the face of the earth, because guess what? There's going to be someone else right behind me that's going to be showing up every single day. So just kind of tell yourself, like, you don't have to like do everything, just do one thing every single day and keep that momentum going, so you don't have to put in all that effort all up front again.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. It's better to slow down than to stop.
What do you tell your coaches who are like shy or don't want to share their stories or nervous? I have a few people who they're excited, but they're like, I don't want to share, and they're getting there, but they're not quite there yet.
So I'm the biggest
them too much.
No, I hear you. I'm the biggest introvert on the face of the planet. Like, even I love calls and I love talking, but you guys should have seen me 10 minutes before this call. I was like hyperventilating. So what I tell my coaches, because I get it, because I'm the same way, is I really try to dig deeper and ask them more questions to figure out what is holding them back, right? Like, why are you afraid? Like, what are you afraid of most of the time? And I just keep talking it out with them and asking more questions until they give me like their real fear, and then we kind of break down that fear. But most of the time I found that their question is they're afraid of what people will think, or they're afraid that like of the people that are following them, like that they're going to see their stuff and they're being vulnerable, right? Brene Brown writes some really good books and audios on vulnerability also, which has helped a lot of my coaches. But what I tell them too for that is I say, okay, well, who is the kind of person that you want to help? Like, who are the people that you want to help, and why do you want to help them? And then I make them like give me like a thought out like answer. Most of the time it's like, I want to help the people who are like me, who were afraid to jump into something like this and it's totally changed their life or something like that. I'm like, okay, well, when you post, act like imagine you're only posting to that person. Those people can't see it if you don't post. I was like, if you are sharing and you're sharing for those people, and your post and what you're saying is tailored to those people, then the other people who don't connect with that will just fizzle out anyway, right? So that kind of helps them feel a little bit more comfortable. And I think it's really about asking them more questions to figure out what their fear is, and then starting slow with just sharing, like, depending on what their fear is, sharing something small, like whether it's, a sweaty selfie, or whether it's the change that they felt between this week and last week, like just kind of starting slow and then recognizing them for them stepping out of their comfort zone. Right? Like whether it's in the team page or your Instagram story or something like that, like giving them a little boost up for doing that to encourage them to do it more, and talk to them about how it felt after. Does that help? Was that helpful? Okay. Anything else?
And I could just add to Ashley that I think it's like ripping off a Band-Aid. You kind of just have to do it, as much as it terrifies you at first, because I feel like once you rip that Band-Aid off, sharing gets easier. And I know from things that I've shared in my past, there have been maybe a handful of posts that were like really vulnerable posts at like maybe the very beginning of coaching, or experiences that I went through. When I separated from my husband, like there was a handful of posts that I made that I literally thought I was going to throw up about, and after I made those, I felt like Larissa said, number one, I didn't immediately feel better. I still felt like I was going to throw up, but the responses that I got from the people were much more supportive and overwhelmingly, I guess, a commending of like my bravery, or being honest or courageous or whatever it was, or supporting me or thanking me for sharing because they were going through the same things. Those kind of responses make you feel like, okay, it was worth it, and you're always there's probably one person that's at some point in your journey going to say something that is going to be exactly what you didn't want to hear, right? Like what you were scared of, that someone's going to attack you or criticize you of something that is of what you're fearing. But you have to also realize that that's 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 100 people that you're helping. There's always going to be someone that's not going to like what you have to say. And if so, delete, block, get out of my life. They're not my person, right? So that's kind of what I always say is you just kind of also have to rip off the Band-Aid and have some courage, because it's not necessarily about you. Your sharing of your story is about helping other people. Is any someone asked a question here. Do you recommend sharing your story on stories or posts, or a little of both?
Definitely both. Definitely both, because you never know where people are going to see things, and also the things on your stories will disappear. So if it's something super like powerful and stuff, I recommend saving it to a highlight. But definitely on your posts too, because that way, you know, if somebody new comes to your page, people always do like an inventory of their page a lot of the time, especially Facebook. Like people scroll to Facebook and like read the things before adding you sometimes. That way they can see it, like if it's somebody new coming to your post. And yeah, I definitely recommend both. They're shared a little bit differently, I think. Like I feel like this post is more like a summary, you know, and then the stories is more like a story, talking straight to the person.
Awesome. Does anybody have any other questions? Anybody want to share anything? No? Going once? Twice? No? All right. Thank you, Larissa. I loved your call. I think it's a really powerful reminder for everybody, no matter where you're at, even if you're not necessarily have an obstacle in life, just to remind us all to constantly share your story, because it's going to help you connect with others. And that's obviously our goal, right? So thank you for sharing.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.